welcome back to another episode of the Carter Cast. I'm your host, Carter Bond. With me, as always, is Connor Sparrow, back doing the NBA playoff podcast. It's been a week. We had a couple TikToks, a couple Instagram reels. Weirdly, that actually got a lot of views, got a lot of comments on it. I'll just admit, we'll start off Lakers Warriors. I was wrong. I was dead wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of were. I've been hot on the Lakers for the last few weeks. Since the playoffs started, I was like, if LeBron and AD hit this certain level, they can make a run. It turns out a lot of the role guys, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura had a good stretch in the first round. D'Angelo Russell's been dynamite in a couple of games. Dennis Schroeder's been a closing option off the bench, which I never thought would happen. Vanderbilt's played some good defense. These role guys are stepping up. It really does seem like the Lakers are coming together, and that's kind of what I anticipated is, hey, if they can figure it out and go on a run, they can be dangerous. They've stayed healthy, knock on wood. Davis has been playing at a decently high level. He's had a couple of duds, the roller coaster AD. But all in all, even though I kind of predicted this, I was still a little shocked to see it come to fruition.
I think the only reason you're shocked is because the Warriors didn't win Game 4. The whole time watching that game last night, we're recording right now. It's 9 o'clock, almost 9 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday night. We're at halftime of the Sixers-Celtics game right now, watching it live while we do this. Game 4 felt like the whole time that the Warriors were going to win that game, and that's the game they should have won. That's the game like the NBA scriptwriter said, hey, this is the one the Warriors win, and the Lakers just went off script and took it over, and now we're not going to get a Game 7 all of a sudden.
Yeah, that sounds right because, it's 3-1 right now. So, Carter, I know we've seen a lot of people talking about don't count the Warriors out. It kind of feels like it's over.
It's over. It's over. As someone who's one of the biggest Warriors fans, hopped on the bandwagon, loves Steph Curry, big Steph Curry guy. Like, I'll defend Steph Curry to the death. But there's not much you can defend here. There's not. Like, what am I supposed to say after that? Like, yes, he had a triple-double. Yes, he played amazing for 39 minutes. You got to play well for 47 minutes. You got to play well for the 48th minute.
Yeah,
that's all that matters.
Curry it is what it is. He's had to play a lot different during this playoff run than I've ever seen before. He's had to take a lot more shots. He's being asked to do a lot more. He's carrying more of the load. Large part because Jordan Poole's unplayable and Klay Thompson has been ice cold. I know you were watching the game last night. For anybody that saw it, Klay Thompson took a three with, I think it was 2:15 left. Very questionable shot. And then another one the next possession with 1:41 left. And I think it was on that one that Steve Kerr kind of lost his mind on the sidelines. Like, you could visibly see him like, what the hell? It's just, I don't know, Carter. It seems like Curry's been asked to do a lot more this postseason run. And the supporting cast hasn't been great. Poole's been unplayable. Clay's been off and on. Looney's been borderline unplayable this series. I know he was sick one game, but he just doesn't fit the matchups well with AD when you're playing Draymond on the floor too. They don't have enough shooters around him. I don't know. And Wiggins has barely been involved on offense a lot of the times. It's weird to see.
It honestly, like, we're giving a lazy analysis, or I'm giving a lazy analysis when I say this. The matter of the fact is, the secondary options on the Warriors just haven't shot well enough. That's kind of been the difference in this series. Like, we expected Anthony Davis to come in and average 25 and 15. We expected LeBron to go get his 25, 8 and 8, whatever he's averaging. Like, we expected that. But the thing is, this series is completely different if guys like Klay and guys like Andrew Wiggins. My goodness, I'm thinking of his brother. I'm having a stroke here. But guys like Andrew Wiggins stepping up or Klay Thompson, like, if those guys aren't stepping up, the Warriors don't have a chance. That was the difference last year in their finals run. Andrew Wiggins played out of his mind. He played like an all-star. And
exactly.
What's the one thing we always talk about with these NBA teams on this podcast? We go back to continuity. And the Warriors not having Andrew Wiggins for those couple months, going MIA out of nowhere for personal reasons, that really has hurt them. He's not who he's been. Jordan Poole, his confidence is just destroyed. I mean, he is not borderline unplayable. He's unplayable at this point. I mean, he has reached Dion Waiters' level of unplayable.
Yeah, I can't argue with that, really. And if you're the Warriors, though, what do you do? I mean, with the whole Klay Thompson thing especially, he's been an integral part of 4 championships.
You just have to keep shooting.
You have to ride the wave. And Steve Kerr, in his post-game press conference, got asked about that. And he got asked about his reaction on the sidelines, and he was like, I'm sure Klay Thompson wants a couple of those shots back, but at the end of the day, I trust him. We have to live with what he does, for what he's done.
Because what else are they going to do? What are you going to go put in Jonathan Kuminga? You're going to put in Moses Moody? You're going to put in Dante DiVincenzo, who made some of the most boneheaded errors last night I've ever seen, giving up 3 rebounds, not one person saying, hey, I got it, hey, same team.
Right.
Someone saying anything on the floor. I mean, he made some crucial errors last night. That's a different story. But going back is no, you have to play Klay. You have to let it roll, and hopefully all of a sudden he finds it in these last few games if you get that chance.
I just wonder when it's going to turn into more of because right now the narrative is, man, look what Klay's done for these championship runs. We got to trust him. When's it going to turn into, that's a bad shot, what's he doing? I know a lot of people are already questioning that, but when does that kind of championship pedigree kind of wear off to where it's okay, maybe you're not the player you were that's taking 30-footers off balance with 14 on the shot clock in a 1-point game in the last 2 minutes. I feel like that's just not a good shot for 99% of the league.
I think that's an excellent point because be honest with yourself. When Klay shoots right now, are you confident it's going in?
No, and there was a time 5 years ago when I was like, man, if Klay comes off that screen, if he gets an inch of space, I think it's going in 75% of the time, even if he's off balanced, even if he's on one leg, 2 guys in his face. Now it's to the point where he shoots, and I'm like, oh, that was a bad shot.
And every time when it releases, you're just like, you just have no feeling. You're just like, this doesn't feel good every time because Curry's a different animal. Curry doesn't count when you talk about confidence when someone shoots because Curry could literally throw a backward shot up and you're like, that might go in.
Right. And the thing with Klay is whenever he shoots now, I'm actively looking at his teammates' reactions, especially last night. When I deem it to be a bad shot, I'm like, all right, let's see what the teammates react. Because it's different. It's a different scenario when if Klay takes those 2 shots beginning of the second quarter, they're up 2, so be it. Maybe he's trying to find a shot, whatever. He was already shooting pretty poorly in that game. So those 2 shots, I think they were kind of out of line a little bit. Even for somebody of his pedigree, they had half the shot clock left. You can get a better shot no matter if your name's Klay Thompson or if your name's Dion Waiters. You can get a better shot.
100%. Let's go back to the Lakers side real quick. I want to talk about I want to give the Lakers credit because they're just playing well, man. This is so reminiscent of the 2020 run where you have that they might face the Nuggets again in the Western Conference Finals. On the other side, it could potentially be Celtics versus the Heat, and then all of a sudden we have a Lakers Heat rematch this year, just like we had in the 2020 bubble. Also back in that 2020 season. Everybody was stepping up. You mentioned it last episode that said, hey, if the Lakers are going to win, these role guys have just got to play out of their minds. And they have. We saw the Lonnie Walker game last night. We'll always remember that. Austin Reeves playing out of his mind. D'Angelo Russell didn't shoot super well, but he's making big plays. And he's also putting the Warriors in foul trouble because he's getting those James Harden, Trae Young type calls where he puts his arm into the defender's arm and then flails, and he's getting that call.
Right.
I don't like it. I really despise it. But guess what? There's nothing you can say about it because it's working. Why would he not keep doing it?
There was a time with D'Angelo Russell when I felt like if he wasn't shooting well, he shouldn't even be on the court. Even this year, I was like, if his shots aren't falling, why is he out there? In these couple of playoff games he's been playing in so far, I can't really argue with him being out there. And the thing about it with Darvin Ham is he's kind of figured it out. D'Angelo Russell did not close the game last night. It was Dennis Schroeder, it was Lonnie Walker, and Russell didn't have it, and he set him on the bench. And good for Darvin Ham for figuring that out. Because honestly, last night, let's say they bench Lonnie Walker after he scores a few buckets just because, okay, let's get Russell back in there. Let's just get our guys back in there. He rode the hot hand. So I got to give credit to Darvin Ham for that, for trusting Lonnie Walker in that situation. Because clearly Russell didn't have it, and he didn't put him back in just because, that's our starting point guard. He's a bigger name,
Yeah, 100%. Dennis Schroeder's playing big minutes. Dennis Schroeder.
He looks pretty good, honestly. He's making a lot of plays. He's had a couple weird turnovers, but for a guy that was borderline going to go unsigned, he's contributing at a high level in the second round of the playoffs. I think they're getting more out of him than they would have thought.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at my notes here. That Austin Reeves charge was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. When he went for that charge, the fact he even went for that charge, because obviously, like I said about the D'Angelo Russell stuff, you can't blame him for going in for that charge because you're incentivized to do that because then you can get an offensive foul. But Why on earth did we all of a sudden change the rule that if a player is in the air, you can still set your feet? That makes no sense. What is the player supposed to do? It shouldn't matter that he's in his shot motion. What is the offensive player supposed to do if the defender just undercuts you, but his feet are set, he's in quote-unquote legal guarding position? It makes zero sense. It needs to come out of this game. It's out of control. I know everybody's out like, oh, who cares, blah, blah, blah. Everybody keeps saying this, but like, yeah, it's a real problem because it's turning into, it's not basketball. Like, as simple as that sounds, it's just not basketball.
I've seen a lot of debate about this online, on Twitter, certain articles and comments. I read some replies on certain things just because I want to get a feel for what people are saying. There's been a lot of flack about this, and people were like, oh, Reeves got called for a block. What do you guys want? That's not the point. The point is that he attempted that play, and we see that more and more lately, especially in the playoffs where guys are stepping in, sacrificing their bodies. Good. I want you to take a charge. That's one of the best things of basketball, putting your body on the ground for the sake of the team. Fine. In these scenarios, it's just not the same. When guys are already in the air, they're already in the motion, you've got to stop rewarding players that want to slide in and undercut them. At the end of the day, it's dangerous, it causes injuries, and it shouldn't be rewarded. And I'm not blaming the players for doing it, because if you get a charge, let's say the superstar, that's their fifth foul, they have to sit on the bench, or that's a big change in momentum, you're going to do that for your team. But at the end of the day, it's causing a lot of injuries, and it's just not basketball. You can try to contest the shot, that's fine, but to undercut a guy, and a lot of these that are called, they're still moving. They're not even set. They're still moving. So that's
it's
another
legal guarding position is what they say.
But it's not, is the thing. When the shooter and the offensive player starts their motion, you shouldn't be able to just slide in under them once they've picked up their dribble like that.
And it needs to be egregious where they are running straight through the player. If a player is trying to get around them on the charge, that is a block. If a player is trying to avoid them in any way, and the player you can't obviously, no player is actually fully sitting still. That's unrealistic to ask. So I understand the concept of legal guarding position. It's just being executed so poorly by the referees and how it's being officiated in the NBA right now.
We see it in college too. It's just inconsistent.
College is unsavable. That's just not.
It is. And they have to. The thing is, they have to address it. They have to address this. It's one of the most subjective calls by the official. It's up to the official whether or not to block or to charge. There's not really any stone cold set guidelines because it's a bang bang play. You have to use your best judgment. I don't know what the fix is, but there has to be some kind of fix addressed.
The thing is, it also feels like. So offensive players in the NBA right now just have so many cheat codes to get what they want, to get the fouls they want. They have so many little ticky-tack things they can get away with that diminish the defender. But this is kind of all that defenders have right now is taking these cheap charges. Otherwise, it's impossible.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of a lot of the hand check fouls they call, or I was actually watching the game just now, and Tatum missed a layup, and they waited to see if the ball went in before they called the foul. Stuff like that.
But that's a tale as old as time.
Yeah, but I don't want to give the offensive player that much advantage. But in the realm of the block charge, the offensive players are at a disadvantage because once they jump, how are they supposed to avoid that? How are they supposed to contort their body and get around that? There's no way. It almost kind of reminds me of in football and the NFL, they've cracked down on defensive linemen landing on the quarterback and calling roughing the passer. We've seen more injuries from guys trying to avoid landing on the quarterback than if they just landed on him. So I think we're going to see a lot of guys trying to avoid the charge and getting hurt. I don't know, Carter. It seems like it's at an all-time low right now, especially in these playoffs. One thing I wanted to get your opinion about, Carter, is LeBron being more of a facilitator this series. He's deferring more. We've seen it since the injury. I wanted to ask you this. Is it weird for you to see LeBron defer in these clutch moments? And the next part of this question, how long can LeBron play in the league as he transitions into this more of a facilitator role, maybe saving himself, choosing his spots more? Because I'm not personally scared of him dropping 40 a game anymore, but he can still impact the game in other ways.
So what's the question exactly?
The question is, all right, I'll phrase this a different way. Right now, the way LeBron's playing, is it weird for you to see him take this next step in his career, deferring to other guys like Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, Lonnie Walker in the clutch? Because, the last 10 years, 15 years, LeBron's been the guy with the ball in his hands 99% of the time in clutch situations. He's the playmaker.
But has he?
Yeah, I think he has. I think he has.
Has he, though? Because it's been a consistent theme throughout LeBron's career. In the biggest moment, he gets bailed out by ACC guys: Shane Battier, Kyrie Irving,
but
Lonnie
he's
Walker.
still making that pass though. He's got a lot of flack for giving it off to the guy. He's still got the ball in his hands though.
But you're saying he's not even involved in the play, is what you're saying?
Yeah, right now it's Lonnie Walker running a pick and roll with Anthony Davis, or Reeves running the pick and roll trying to get the switch with Dennis Schroeder. They're hunting switches, but not with LeBron involved in the action sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me as much just because also I'm not scared of LeBron's shot. So, like, when he has the ball, I understand he's a good facilitator, but you got to go against the biggest threat on the team. I guess it is weird to say that LeBron isn't the biggest threat on a basketball team anymore. Anthony Davis is, and that's why you need him in that action. But LeBron's always been that facilitator, man. Like, he's always given up the ball in the biggest moments, which people fault him for that. Like, that's the dumbest thing. Make the right basketball play. Who cares if you're the guy? All that matters is winning.
The thing with LeBron is the standard's not going to go down as he gets older, and we've seen that. He's still going to be held to a very high standard and be held accountable like he's 25 again. So we're not going to see that go down with age. As long as he plays, he's going to get that criticism. Even if he's 43 playing in the league and he's playing 15 minutes a game, they're still going to be like, oh, LeBron passed up that shot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Is this LeBron's last run? Like, is this his last real chance at a championship? I think this needs to be asked.
Turn the TikTok camera on. I don't think it's his last run on a successful team. I think this may be his last run as a top 2 scorer on a team. The way guys are putting the ball in the hoop now, I feel like LeBron's going to take more of a facilitator role, and we've seen it since his injury this year, especially in the playoffs. I think this is his last run as a top 2 scorer on an NBA team.
I think it is too.
I think we're going to start to see him take those next steps as a facilitator, like I said. And that's fine. He's still going to be one of the best players in the league at doing that, and he could still go off for 30, 40 every now and then. But I'm not scared of him going off for 40 in a playoff game anymore like I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
The thing is, what I'm scared to say that I'm not afraid of that, because he may just be saving himself for the biggest moments in the finals where it comes down to he's just going to go all out in this last finals. Be like, I'm winning my 5th title, no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm dropping 35 a game.
You know what? That's very true. And I want this included in the clip if you clip this off. It needs to be noted that LeBron is playing with that injury the foot injury that would have ended most guys' seasons. That has to be noted, so that could be a reason why he's kind of lackadaisical sometimes or taking some plays off, kind of picking and choosing his spots very strategically. That he's playing with a serious injury right now, so I don't want to come and bash LeBron.
Yeah, and it's so unfair because he's still playing with pretty much a broken hand from the 2018 Finals Game 1. Like, what a trooper this guy is. I mean, give him the Medal of Honor.
Exactly. Yeah, write it down. Go ahead, clip it off.
Other things I want to talk about in this series. It's kind of ironic that iso ball was the demise of the Warriors. Not ironic, but it makes sense because if you notice at the beginning of the game, Steve Kerr doesn't typically call early timeouts. And he called one very fast. I mean, literally 3 minutes in, he was like, yeah, I'm tired of this crap. This energy is weak. The pace of play in that first half was weird anyways. But like the Warriors looked like they didn't give a crap when they came out after tip. Steve Kerr calls a timeout. All of a sudden, they're passing the ball. It's so basic, but it's so true that the Warriors just need to pass the ball more, man, and motion offense. That's why Jordan Poole is so detrimental to this team. It's not because of his jump shots, because he holds the offense up. He's so stale. It just slows everything down. This team cannot go slow, and that's what's frustrating at the end of these games is, why are we having Curry ISO dance around Anthony Davis? Like, let's get him in some action, off-ball action, coming off a screen. Even have Clay running off a screen. Like, have Clay come off and curl for a mid-range shot. He's been fine from mid-range this series. Like, why are we not doing that? Like, stop going after – stop just leaving these guys ISO. Like, when I see Clay having to dribble the ball more than 3 times, something is off on that play.
Yeah, and that's how it is across the league, though, especially in the playoffs. It gets down under 2 or 3 minutes in a tight game.
That's how it is. But that's how it is, like, in general, with how all other teams play besides the Warriors, and that's why the Warriors are so special. That they've won playing a different way that isn't iso ball at the end of games, and I guess that's why Kevin Durant was able to take them to that next level. Because hey, here's a guy that can go get you a bucket.
Right.
But it's not like. It's just frustrating, man. Like, you don't need to play ISO ball at the end of games. I don't know why everyone feels like they need to do that, other than the fact that, we have to get this player the ball in his hands at the end. Like, dude, just get the best shot. Just get the best shot.
That's true. I think what also plays into it is trying to drain too much clock. If you can get a good shot with 12 on the shot clock, I'd rather take that than waste 10 more seconds and jack up a 30-footer or an off-balance floater. I think teams just abandon their offensive game plan in the last few minutes, and it's not on purpose. I know it's easier said than done. We're just sitting here talking about it. But run your sets, and teams are too focused on draining the clock in scenarios that it doesn't really make that much a difference. Is 10 seconds going to make a difference with 2 minutes left? Not really.
Even if you do drain the clock, just drain less of the clock and then run your offense. Like, quit, just whatever. But that's just how basketball is, and we're two white guys sitting here eating pizza, watching basketball every night. So what do we know?
If Kobe's not the GOAT, we don't know ball. That's how it goes.
Oh my gosh, these Kobe fans are actually ridiculous. I was gonna say the flops are out of control. I mean, if you've watched the Celtics Sixers series, you know. I mean, it's just out of control.
Kyle Lowry's out of control too. Kyle Lowry's out of control too with flopping. Let me get that in there.
We'll get into the Heat-Knicks game in a little bit. Last thing on the Warriors-Lakers series. What makes me so frustrated, going back to the ISO thing, is there a better product in sports than when the Warriors are at their best?
That's a tough argument. I can't think of one off the top of my head, because when I'm watching the Warriors, when they're moving the ball, when they're coming off screens, when Curry's jacking up 4 threes in a row from 25 feet, that's exciting to me. And I think every shot's going in. Especially back a few years ago whenever Clay was in his prime, and even when they had Durant especially, those dribble handoffs, those fading Clay corner threes, I just thought every single one was going in. And I'm a huge fan of basketball. I'm a huge fan of the NBA. A lot of people aren't. I tune into a lot of games. During those prime years, I didn't want to miss a Warriors game. It could be a random Warriors-Blazers game on a Tuesday night. I'm tuning in. So I think that speaks to how exciting it is. I don't know of a better product on the field than that. Do you have any?
My argument would be maybe the Chiefs. Like, you could say that when the Patrick Mahomes Chiefs were at their best, Tyreek Hill flying downfield. Besides that, like, there are some soccer examples. Like, I mean, I think I've had just as much fun watching some of these, like, insane Liverpool teams, or those, like, those Pep Guardiola, Messi, Barcelona teams were unbelievable. But baseball, no shot. I don't care. A team could go 162-0. They would not be more fun to watch than the freaking Pistons.
I don't know. Personally, I got to go back to Carolina 2009, 2012, Kendall Marshall running the show. That was, I don't know, greatest show on the court right there.
Oh, 2019 Duke blows 2012 UNC out of the
water. Please stop. Stop.
No. We're getting into this right now. The 2019 Duke team was the most entertaining college basketball team of the 21st century.
Oh, because I love watching R.J. Barrett dribble around and clank a shot. That's fun.
It was must-watch TV.
It was. Just the fact who they had on the team. I don't know about the way they played. You can debate that. But
having Zion, having NBA guys, having 3 top 10 picks on that roster.
The personnel, sure. But the way they played and like how I felt watching the games, maybe it's just because I'm a Carolina fan. But
yeah, well, and also Coach K didn't coach him. He just said go out there and play.
That is also true. That's fair. I can't argue that. It was fun. I did enjoy watching Zion play.
Okay, let's move on. Suns Nuggets. They're about to play in about an hour or so. It sucks we can't record after, what is this game? This is game 5, right? Yeah,
game 5, yeah.
Series is 2-2. Series is 2-2. These games have been crazy.
There's a lot that we could start on. I mean, Booker and KD have been shooting out of their mind. Jokic had a 50-burger last game. There's one glaring issue that I see that I wanted to bring up first, and it's how bad DeAndre Ayton's been. Carter.
Bad.
He has been getting tossed around by Jokic, by Jeff Green, Aaron Gordon. Even KCP comes and just rips the ball from him like he's stealing candy from a baby. It's kind of unbelievable for a former number 1 pick who played a pretty integral part in their finals run a couple years ago. I don't want to say he's unplayable, but this is not the matchup for him. Jock Londale has been so much better in much more limited minutes.
I'm very glad you brought this up. That Pat Bev clip that went viral this week was almost the biggest subtweet at DeAndre Ayton and Karl Anthony Towns. if you missed it, Pat Bev went on his podcast said that, or on like a live stream or something, said that 50% of the NBA players don't like basketball, and he says a lot of these guys who are dominating in the league hate basketball. They really don't like basketball. That is so evident in DeAndre Ayton. It's insane.
It is. There's no fire.
There's no fire. There's no fire. There's no aggression. There's nothing in there. It's just an empty gas tank.
I saw a couple.
It's just like a big old Ford Raptor that just doesn't start.
It's like, all right, come on. Like, I know you got a few good miles left in you. I just bought you 2 years ago. Vroom, vroom.
Yeah, and you blew out the engine somehow.
Just sputters out. And then Kevin Durant comes up a new vintage Ferrari from 30 years ago. No,
exactly.
I don't know. There was a couple loose balls with DeAndre Ayton that I saw where he actually put in a little bit of effort. But at the end of the day, you got to have some competitive juice. This is the second round of the NBA playoffs. You're getting tossed around. You've seen the narratives. Just from a perspective of just being a man and like being a basketball player and playing at the highest level, come out with some fire. At least try. You know, like he's been getting ripped in the media, and you would think maybe try to prove some people wrong. I don't know. Jokic has been absolutely tossing him around. I'm not saying you should stop Jokic or hope to contain him. He's borderline unplayable because every time he gets the rebound, he's looking over his shoulder. He's throwing it a bad pass, a bad outlet pass.
And his trade value is nothing now. Nothing.
Well, that also plays into it because he signed the offer sheet with the Pacers. You think he wanted to come back to Phoenix? Him and Monty Williams didn't talk the whole offseason. He doesn't want to be there.
He doesn't want to be anywhere. He just wanted the money.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It doesn't matter if he was in Indiana, Orlando, or Phoenix. Like, he just wanted the money. It's so clear. I have nothing against DeAndre Ayton. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but this is pitiful. This is pitiful.
Tell me if you see him being a second or third option on an actual winning playoff team. Because I see him going to a small market like Indiana or Detroit or, God forbid, Charlotte.
Yeah.
And averaging 20 and 10 and being like, oh, this guy had a pretty decent career. Never won anything, though.
At what point do the Hawks talk themselves into a DeAndre Ayton trade?
For who, though? John Collins and
like Clint Capella package for DeAndre Ayton?
That's pretty comparable in my opinion. I don't think either team gets better or worse. I think it's just.
I don't either. I think the Suns would win that trade just because if those guys walked into that system, that's a huge win for them.
I will say this: I think Clint Capella would play better with Booker and Kevin Durant, and we can even get into this with Chris Paul.
Chris Paul too, yeah.
Yeah, we can get into that with that. But with the DeAndre Ayton piece, one last thing I'll say: he just doesn't fit with this lineup. He doesn't cut enough, doesn't move around enough on offense. He's more of like a vacuum when he gets the ball. And on defense, he hasn't been able to stop a parked car. So just with this lineup with Durant now, it worked better with Mikal Bridges, with guys like that. But now with this lineup, he doesn't cut, doesn't move around enough on offense. It just doesn't seem to work. And guess what? We didn't get a chance to see it because they didn't play any games together after they got Durant.
Nope. Continuity once again. Let me go through here. I know everybody's already talked about the Suns owner and the Jokic thing. We don't have to go into that. But if I was the Suns owner, I tweeted this out. If I was the Suns owner, I would have flopped like I'm Neymar, rolling around the floor, acting like I'm dying. I would have made an ambulance come on the court and stretcher me off. There's no way I'm not letting that happen. Doing any chance to get Jokic suspended.
I agree, and Simmons and Russillo touched on this. I thought Russillo did a great job. I was on his side in that argument. Matt Ishbia played basketball. He had the ball in his hands. I don't think he consciously was trying to keep the ball away from Jokic. We don't have to get much into this. I don't think he was trying to keep it away. Now, yes, he did kind of fling it a little bit after Jokic tried to grab it, but I think he was just holding the ball. I don't think there was any type of malice or ill intent, and it wasn't like Jokic was all the way up in the stands. Ishbia's on the court. Like, it just happens. It's bang, bang play. He just had the ball in his hands. He was checking on his guy. I don't think there's anything there.
There's nothing there. That's the whole point. That's why it's all stupid. Let's see here. On the Nuggets side, I think this series should shut up every Jokic hater saying, "Oh, he stat pads. Oh, he only does it to satisfy the nerds and all that." Even though anybody who's watched basketball and knows basketball can tell that wasn't true. He's always just trying to make the best play. But this shows if Jokic really wanted to, he could arguably go out and average 40 a night. 40 a night.
I wrote that down. I said Jokic deciding when to score versus when to facilitate. Because he's such a wizard at that, of deciding what his team needs. Because there's nights when he'll have 13 assists and maybe 25 potential assists. Guys just breaking shots or leading the fouls. There's other nights, like the other night, game 4, he scores 53 because his team needs him to shoot the ball 35 times, and he can do it. And I'm sure he could do that. Maybe their record wouldn't be as good, but like you said, he could go out there and average 30, 35 points easily because he scores so effortlessly. But what his team needs isn't always that. If Jamal Murray, if Michael Porter's hitting shots, he's going to facilitate.
Its series is 2-2 right now. Selfishly, I want the Nuggets just because I want to see how Jokic would do against Anthony Davis in a series.
I think there would have to be... if you're the Lakers, is there a potential Mo Bamba minutes in that series? You got to throw some big bodies at Jokic because Wenyen Gabriel and Vanderbilt are not going to cut it against him. Obviously, AD can play him, but not 48 minutes.
And get into foul trouble, maybe.
Exactly. And I think, not to go back to the Lakers too much, AD's better rotating off the ball, help side defense, protecting the rim. He doesn't need to be guarding Jokic on the elbow or on the top of the key. But if you're the Nuggets, when do you start playing Thomas Bryant? When do you start playing Reggie Jackson? You got to give these guys some run. Christian Brown, he's been non-existent the last 2 games. Jeff Green, really?
Reggie Jackson. How much do you think Reggie Jackson wishes he would have just signed with Phoenix instead of Denver?
Oh, 100%. Because he would be starting point guard right now. He'd be playing over campaign.
Yeah, 100%. He would be playing real playoff minutes right now with Chris Paul's injury.
Yeah, I agree. But you know what? Maybe they see him in practice every day. Maybe they're unplayable. But why else would you acquire them at the deadline? You got to give them some run. I don't know.
Exactly. They need it. I know a lot of people have talked about the Ewing theory with Chris Paul right now, but at what point do we get to say Phoenix is better without Chris Paul?
Okay, I was anticipating this question. I don't think they're necessarily better without him, but this group of players, the way they play, the pace is so much different without him. It's better for Booker. It's better for Durant. If you look at the stats here, just very basic stats. Game 1, 107 points. Game 2, 87. Very slow pace. Game 3 and 4, no Chris Paul, 121, 129 points. Got up more shots, more possession, more pace of play. For Booker and Durant, these freelance guys, there's not as much structure without CP3, and that's what they thrive on. Booker and Durant are 2 of the top 10, maybe even top 5 scorers, pure scorers in the league. They can get their own shot. They can take bad shots. They can take a floater. They can take a contested 3 over 2 people, and you think it's going in. With CP3 running the show, you're going to get to a set. Everybody's going to go to their spot. If it doesn't work, you're not getting a shot. I think Booker and Durant, they're better as freelancers, especially in the playoffs like this, because the pace of play is so much different.
Yeah, that you mentioned the change of pace of play. Like, at the end of the day, these guys just need to run and gun. You don't have to draw up plays for them. Is the crazy thing is, and also Chris Paul demands the ball too much, and it kind of hurts their offense when you have 2 guys who are just immensely better, and they're, like you mentioned, 2 of the top 5 scorers in basketball potentially. Chris Paul has the ball in his hands too much to where it doesn't flow, and the Phoenix offense doesn't flow normally just because you give it to 2 guys and said, hey, go get us a bucket. That's kind of how it goes anyways, but Chris Paul just takes away the touches. That's kind of all it comes down to.
I'll give you a prime example that I noted a few times in the past couple of games without Chris Paul. They get the rebound. Booker pushes the pace on a fast break. He's red hot. He pulls up for 3, nails it. If Chris Paul gets the ball in that fast break, yeah, he'll try to get Booker involved, but you know what he's going to do? He's going to walk it up. He's going to get guys in their places. Booker's going to get a down screen set for him. But the defense has time to set up. They have time to switch. They have time to expect it. With Booker and Durant pushing the pace on these fast breaks and just pulling up or, a couple dribble pull-up, first side shots, what they call it, that's not a bad shot with them. It's just not a bad shot with them. And Chris Paul slows it down too much. And you've seen they've won 2 games in a row with Durant and Booker having the ball in their hands 90 to 95% of the game. Yeah, you might say it's a little overkill. They've won 2 games in a row with it. Chris Paul has the ball in his hands entirely too much, like you said, whenever he plays. And with this group, it just doesn't seem like a good fit.
It's not. And they need to get this has been Phoenix's downfall the last few years. They need to get a guy who can come in after Chris Paul. Not Tyus Jones is an extreme example because not many teams can have a Tyus Jones type, but they need something like that. A guy who can come in and just kind of run things, stabilize things a little bit.
I don't know, dude. As far as a true point guard goes, I feel like Booker facilitating has been great lately. He's been averaging 8, 9 assists without Chris Paul.
Not even like it necessarily a true point guard, more so just someone who can come in and is somewhat reliable. Like, his campaign's not reliable, let's be honest. But I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. I mean, Jordan Clarkson's actually good, but like old Jordan Clarkson, like when he was coming off the bench all the time, that's kind of the example you come to.
Yeah. Yeah, secondary ball handler, preferably
Dennis
somebody
Schroeder.
preferably somebody that can guard their team's best guard. That's kind of what they need to pair with Booker. But, Chris Paul's going up there in age. I guess we'll just have to see what happens when he comes back. Another thing for the Suns, Landry Shamet game. They started doubling Booker and doubling Durant. Shamet just couldn't miss.
If you're the Nuggets, I think you're okay with that.
I think you live with that. When Booker and Durant each have 40, 2 games in a row, you have to let other guys beat you. And if Shamet, Terrence Ross, TJ Warren, they're going to hit those corner threes, I think I'm living and dying by that rather than Booker and Durant taking my guy one-on-one every single play.
And we called that too. We said Booker and Durant are going to start averaging 75 plus combined in these games. I mean, it's going to be outrageous. Who do you have in this series? It's 2-2 right now. Who's winning between the Suns and Nuggets? I know we're recording. This is terrible because we're recording 30 minutes before tip-off, so it's going to come out tomorrow, and everyone's going to be like, oh, these idiots didn't realize that this team was winning.
Yeah, right now it's 2-2. Game 5 in Denver tonight. I got the Nuggets tonight. I got the Nuggets winning the series.
You're flipping.
That's the thing, because I've been with the Suns this whole time.
We recorded. When we recorded, the Nuggets were looking good, and you were like, "Nah, I'm still sticking with Phoenix. I'm still sticking with Phoenix." And then all of a sudden, you're looking like you're right.
You know what?
All of a sudden, Game 5, and you're flipping. Come on, you can't flip flop.
You know what scares me is Chris Paul coming back and messing up the flow. He comes back and they'll play him 30 minutes.
That's how we know they're better without Chris Paul. If he comes back and they're losing games.
You know what? You're right. I'm sticking with the Suns. Talent rises to the top. I think hopefully Monty Williams and Chris Paul are self-aware enough. If they're rolling without him, in one game he doesn't have it, maybe keep him on the bench. Maybe only play him 20, 25 minutes. You know what? Yeah, I got Nuggets tonight. Suns in 7, though.
I want to say Phoenix so bad, but I'm going to stick with Denver in 7. I think Denver wins it at home. I think home court advantage wins out. I think everybody wins their home games.
I don't know, dude. I got to stick with the Suns here. The way Booker and Durant are shooting, I know it's not going to keep up.
You want to take the Nuggets now, don't you?
I'm worried. I really am worried. I feel like Chris Paul's going to come back and the Suns are just going to blow it. I don't know.
Because kind of the argument is, you're worried about Chris Paul coming back, but then the argument for the Suns is 1 minute left in the game, tie game, who you taking? You're taking Phoenix every time.
Well, they have 2 guys. They have 2. There's not many people I put above those 2 guys that if I need a bucket in the last minute of a game, that's who I'm going to, Durant and Booker. They're like 2 of the top 5 in the league. If I need one ISO bucket to take the lead or tie the game with 30 seconds left, that's who I'm going to. I'm choosing them over everybody in the league.
Anything else in this series?
That's all I got right now. I'm just curious to see how Michael Porter Jr. plays tonight because he's been pretty bad. If his shot starts going down, that's huge for them. But he's been borderline awful this series, shot selection wise and everything.
I wrote this down real quick. Should the Suns go or play a boxing 2?
Should the Suns or the Nuggets?
Should the Nuggets play a boxing 2 against the Phoenix Suns?
Yeah. I mean, what are you worried about?
Just run a little triangle and then have your 2 best defenders on KD and Devin Booker.
Yeah, because you know what? I'm not worried about Campaign beating me from the outside. I'm not worried about DeAndre Ayton really at all. I'm not worried about Torrey Craig, Terrence Ross, TJ Warren. Yeah, they might get hot, but they're not consistent. If Durant and Booker don't score 35 each, that team's not winning. I don't hate that.
I know, Coach Carter coming out.
Well, they started doubling them at the end of that game. I think we might see something weird tonight. So this episode's coming out after the game. We might see some weird defensive schemes from Denver.
Let's take a break and then let's do the Eastern Conference. All right, let's do the Eastern Conference. Let's start off. Game's on right now. Sixers are up 17 right now in the fourth quarter, 98-81. It looks like Sixers are about to go up 3-2. If they don't win, whatever, it's 2-2. Looks like Sixers are going to be up 3-2. Getting the win in Boston right now. Sixers winning 3 in a row. If I'm not, no, 2 in a row because they won game 1. I'm getting all.
They won
mixed
game
up.
1. Yeah, you're right.
Getting my series mixed up. I'm getting the Suns one mixed up. I'm getting them all mixed up. It's ridiculous. Sixers 3-2. I don't know. I don't even know where to start here because watching this game right now. I've been watching this while we've been recording. it's honestly been abysmal by the Celtics. The body language is horrific. I don't know if it's coaching. I don't know if there's just dysfunction in the locker room. Is the whole what's going on with all the Jaylen Brown stuff behind the scenes? Something weird is going on in Boston.
Where I want to start is Jason Tatum. And let me preface this by saying right now he's got 34 on 10 for 25 shooting, 3 for 10 from 3. I just want to talk about how every game he starts slow. There was one game where he had 0 points in the first half. Game 1 he shot 4 for 5 from 3. Since then, he's been 4 for 20 in games 2 through 4. He was supposed to be an MVP candidate this year. I think something's off in this postseason card. I don't know if it's an injury. I don't know if there's something in the locker room. I'm leaning more towards like an injury. He just looked off. He's looked sluggish, and he's missed easy shots.
And he's settling.
He is settling a lot, and the mid-range game is non-existent now. It's either a pull-up three or a weird like floater attack the rim over two people. It's a tough shot. When Jason Tatum was at his best, he's hitting mid-ranges. He's backing people down, fade away from the elbow. Why does that have to go away? Those are good shots. The Suns are doing it.
And also, you mentioned he's just doing the thing where he just drives in and does a floater over two guys. Like, go into these guys. Draw the contact. That's why, like, the injury part of it, I kind of agree with it, is it kind of looks like how he looked in the finals last year against the Warriors, where he was kind of avoiding contact.
Yeah, it's almost like he's expecting it, so he's trying to get out of the way or maneuver around it. Therefore, he misses the shot. I mean, he's going into the lane, and I really have no confidence that it's going in. And, a few of these games, he's picked it up in the second half. Right now, he's picked it up in the second half. That's fine. But a big part of being a superstar, a big part of being the best guy on your team, you got to get your guys off to a good start. You can't just try to climb back in it every second half and then get involved. You got to have good starts. And I think that's been really big for the Celtics because Marcus Smart's taking too many shots early. Jaylen Brown's taking a lot of shots early and not a lot late. It's just very imbalanced. And I don't really know what the exact problem is, but it just seems off, like a little clunky. For a team that's played together so long and made a huge run last year, it just seems wrong.
How much do you think Joe Mazzulla is to blame? Because, in my opinion, I don't think he's back next year.
I don't think he is either, and I don't necessarily think he needs to take 100% of the blame. But he was an interim for a reason. He wasn't the head coach for a reason. He had to come into a volatile situation after Udoka left. And I think a lot of the success they had is because the players. I don't think it's anything necessarily he did. And now, when the playoffs start, coaching matters a lot more. Tactics, strategies, when to use your timeouts, when to use your challenges. All that's magnified, and it wasn't in the regular season. I think the lights might be a little too bright. I don't think he knows this team very well, and something's not clicking in the locker room.
Because, I mean, he keeps running home with timeouts in his pocket like Roy Williams. Continuous theme. And we saw, like, that was how they could have easily won Game 4 if they would have just called the timeout and ran a play, draw up a play.
And the thing is,
you have a younger team. Like, you have a team that has not won a championship. You don't have Stephen Curry. You don't have LeBron James. You don't have Kevin Durant. Like, you have guys that have not won titles. Don't let them go and play. Just timeout, draw up the play. Get what you want. Get who you want with the ball in your hands. You don't want Marcus Smart taking two last-second threes at the end of games.
Yep. And it's not like there's no sample size. It's not like we're early in the year. He's coached this team all year, and that's how it's been all year. Late game situations, late game scenarios, execution has been off for Boston this year. It's been off. And he's had the large enough sample size and a long enough time to realize that. If they were clicking, if they were executing during the whole year, don't call a timeout. Fine. From what we've seen, that's not the case. That hasn't been the case. I know you have two great players in Tatum and Brown, and you want to trust them in these situations. This year, it hasn't been the case with this group. I don't know why. But if you have a timeout there, you got to burn it. I know hindsight's 20/20, but we've seen the sample size. It's been long enough.
Also, we're seeing just like the funkiest defensive matchups. Why, like the Grant Williams minutes? We were texting before we even hopped on the recording. The Grant Williams minutes are just mind-boggling.
It's just not the series for him because he's not going to guard Embiid. Like, I get it. He's trying to be a pest. He's trying to mess with Embiid. I think when you're guarding Embiid, you want the size. I don't think you want that pass. They've even put Marcus Smart on him. They've actively put Marcus Smart on him.
They have him on him right now.
But, like, why? Like, really? That's what you're resorting to? That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Timeout. Boston's brought it within 14 with 6 minutes left. That's going to suck if we do this recording and, like, right when we hop off, the Celtics somehow win and we just did all this.
Yeah. I'm still going to bash them, though. It doesn't change the fact that they've looked abysmal through 3 quarters of this game, 3.5 quarters.
And they looked abysmal for 3.5 quarters of last game.
They blew that last game. That's why, like, Philly might win 4 straight.
I mean, I don't see Boston going into Philly and winning Game 6. Other thing I had on this one, this is just a stupid side note, but Malcolm Brogdon, watching him play, anytime I see a Virginia player shoot, I never think it's going in.
His shot's so ugly, but he's been so hot in the playoffs, dude. He has not been missing.
I know, but I still don't get. I'm just still not confident. It's just like every Virginia player has a funky stroke to their jump shot. Like
DeAndre Hunter,
Kyle Guy is the only guy who had a smooth jumper, but like every single UVA player in history just had like disgusting jump shots. Like Kihei Clark's is gross.
Kihei Clark. I was gonna say Ty Jerome.
Ty Jerome's is weird. Even though Ty Jerome's not a bad shooter, but like
he's not. But the form's weird.
It's just ugh. Ugh.
It is.
Mike Tobey had the classic Ryan Kelly big man jump shot.
Jay Huff.
Oh gosh! All right, no more Virginia basketball.
All right, we got to get away from this.
Forgive me. I need to go to the confession booth. I was talking too much Virginia basketball on a podcast.
Oh, Tony Bennett, I swear.
The Sixers, man, like you got to give Harden his flowers, man. He's played unbelievable. Like we always like to trash on him in the playoffs, like playoff Harden, he sucks. He can't win in the playoffs, but man, he is balling right now. Like there's nothing you can say against him.
I didn't think he had many more of these performances left in him, and he's had 2 in 4 games. Sure, the other 2 games were pretty mediocre to bad for him, but he's won. He's single-handedly won 2 games for them. Embiid's been ailing. Maxi's been very inconsistent. And that's about all they have on offense. He had to drop 40 points for them to win Game 1 especially. He's the reason it's 2-2, so we have to give him props. And, I mean, I don't want to discount. He's had 2 bad games as well, and you have to show up. But I didn't think he had any of these 40-point games left in him, especially in the playoffs.
No, not at all. And he also tonight he's almost got a triple-double. He hasn't had to shoot as much. He's only taken 8 jump shots. I think he's taken like 10 free throws. But guys like Maxey and Tobias Harris are stepping up. And that's the theme I wanted to talk about, is that the consistent theme with any title-winning team is that some of your role players are playing way, way beyond expectations. Like, for example, the Miami Heat, Caleb Martin is all of a sudden a double-digit scorer and a legit option. We're talking about Tobias Harris is playing out of his mind. Tyrese Maxey, those are good players, but they're playing way above their expected potential, it seems like. And then you look on the other side, the Lakers. Lonnie Walker comes out of the dead and all of a sudden is playing out of his mind. Austin Reeves is playing great. D'Angelo Russell, it wouldn't necessarily be a role player, but he's playing way better than you.
Supporting cast.
Supporting cast, exactly. And Landry Shamet last night. Those guys are that's what makes the difference. These big time stars, they're going to have their 45-point games. They're going to have 30 points. At the end of the day, LeBron needed his Shane Battier all those years. You need those guys, the supporting cast guys, the KCPs. They are the difference in winning a title, and Philadelphia's had that addition this year. Tobias Harris playing well, Tyrese Maxey playing well, and all these other guys.
They have. Comment on Maxey, though. His shooting numbers in the playoffs are actually down. He's down to 41.5%. He was 48 during the regular season.
But it just game-by-game basis.
But in these big moments, in these big moments, he's stepping up. He's being a second option a lot of the times, primary option even. That is huge. Tobias Harris had a very inconsistent start to the series. He had a great first round. Seems like he's doing better now. The one thing about the Sixers, Carter, there's only one guy on the Sixers bench I trust in a playoff series, and that's D'Anthony Melton. He's been on fire.
B-ball Paul.
Great defense. I don't trust him in a playoff series, Corey. I haven't seen him enough. I have not seen him enough. Like, he's had his moments, but I'm not ready to give him playoff minutes. I mean, they have George Niang, sure. Jalen McDaniels, he's out of the rotation. Daniel House seems like a viable option now, but none of these guys have been in the playoff series.
If anybody's him, it's B-ball Paul. Come on.
That double-double bet, game 1. Whew.
Also, side note, can we stop getting a side? I feel like I've seen like 4 or 5 different like sideline reporters being like, in the huddle, Anthony Davis went up to Austin Reeves and said, "Come on, man, you're him. You got this. You're him." And then Austin Reeves went back and said, "I'm him." Can we stop calling everybody him?
No, dude. Everybody's him. If you're him, you're him. You just know.
All right, Himothy Neutron. I don't know. This series, man, it's frustrating. If you're a Celtics fan, I would be like breaking TVs. I would be so frustrated. There's no
Is
reason.
Jaylen Brown gone?
I think he has to be. I think that's why I brought up the dysfunction point where there's something going on in that locker room that is not okay because they just look disjointed, like you mentioned, on the court, and it's just something is off. It's so clear how off it is. And same with the Warriors. Something's off with them, too. Like, something's weird going on behind the scenes.
Well, Jaylen Brown barely touches the ball in the fourth quarter, and then overtime the last game, he barely touched the ball. I don't know if he's got to be more vocal about demanding it. That's what he said in his post-game presser. And also, you tweeted this. When do you tell Al Horford to stop shooting? When? I thought that was money. That was a money tweet. When do you do it? Because he even came out, he was like, I'm an elite shooter. I know he started off 0 for 6 tonight. I don't know what he is right now. Let me check.
Probably 0 for 7 because I haven't seen him make a shot.
He's 0 for 7, and they've all been three-pointers. When do you tell him to stop, Carter? It's about that time.
Oh, my gosh. And they were wide open, too. They were just the most wide open shots. No, man, if you're
I know.
If you're a Celtics fan, I don't feel bad for any Boston sports fans. Screw them. They have a million titles.
No, absolutely not.
I don't feel bad for them at all.
I'm glad the Bruins lost. You hear that? I'm glad the Bruins lost.
Screw the Bruins. The Patriots are never going to be good for the next 25 years. You guys are doomed. Mac Jones sucks. The Jets are going to win that division. The Jets or the Bills are going to win that division. We'll get into football later, but with the Celtics, this was their chance. The Celtics fans are going to look back at this year. Because you can say last year was their chance. Nobody really expected them to make the finals and be competitive in the finals against that Golden State team. This year, obviously they were the betting favorite almost the whole way through. Even with Milwaukee gets chopped down. You could go against an 8-seed Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. All you have to do is get past Philadelphia, and it looks like they're not going to be able to do it. I could be wrong. They could win in 7, but this was their chance.
The game that stands out to me is game 1. If the MVP of the league is out and you lose that game with B-ball Paul Reed starting, that's inexcusable. You can't lose that game. That's a must-win game.
But I can understand losing game 1. Game 4 was the must-win game. Game 4 of every single series is a must-win game unless you're up 3-0. Unless you're up 3-0,
but when you look,
game 4 is the must-win game. If you lose game 4, you almost always lose the series.
But when they look back at this run, they're going to say, Embiid missed this game and we lost. That's the bottom line. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but in this specific scenario.
They had the ball in their hands, tie game. They hit that shot. This series is over. It's 3-1.
Yeah, that's true. I can't argue that. They probably win in 5 tonight if they hit that shot.
100%. And then back to what we said last week with the Celtics. What was my one fear with the Boston Celtics? It was that they keep playing with their food and keep playing down to their competition. They can't get up for these games for some reason. They don't have that cliche championship mentality, but it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been weird to see. There's been so many mental lapses, especially at the end of games, dysfunction. You'd think this team just got put together 2 weeks ago. I would be much more inclined to see this from the Suns. That wouldn't surprise me. They haven't played a lot of games together. This team, their top 8 guys, besides Malcolm Brogdon, they made that run together last year. They've played games together. They know each other. And it just seems so dysfunctional, especially at the end of games. And I just can't fathom how they haven't figured it out at this point.
Last thing on this about the Celtics. If the NBA really wanted to rig the playoffs with their new media deal coming up, wouldn't the NBA make it Lakers-Celtics to bump up their ratings, to make their numbers look a little bit nicer before this upcoming media deal?
That's what I thought.
I thought we were going to get it.
Battle for 18, LeBron back in the finals, maybe his last time, Tatum back for revenge.
That would have done better ratings than even those Cavs-Warriors final series. That would have done all-time ratings. It would have probably gave them another freaking $1 billion in TV revenue.
So that's why when Boston goes down 3-2 tonight, take the Celtics to win the series, because at the end of the day, money wins. Money talks, Carter.
Who's winning the series?
Assuming tonight's result holds and Philly wins and they go up 3-2, I think it's over in 6. I think Boston's completely checked out. I think this is honestly a back-breaking loss. I think Game 4 might have killed them because they had it in their clutches and they let it get away. And those losses can carry over. That was only a day and a half ago.
Yeah.
That was less than 48 hours ago. You don't think they're still stinging from that? They're like, oh man, back of their head like this, we have to win this or it's over.
No, I just think Philly came out and punched them in the mouth tonight. It's hard not to go Philly. It's hard not to go with the team that's up 3-2 when you're like, gosh, when you see that 3 next to it and you're like, they only have to win one more game. Like, how am I not going to pick them? I'm just going to go Boston because why not?
Fair enough.
Because to be honest, if Boston comes out randomly and just says F you and comes out and wins Game 6, everybody's going to think they're winning Game 7. And they could easily win Game 6. That's why I don't want to overreact too much and freak out, but it's hard not to if you watch this game right now because they're down 18 with 5 minutes to go in the fourth at home in a Game 5, and they just don't look like they're there. They just look tired and out of gas almost.
But here's what I think, Carter. Last thing I'll say on this series. I know Embiid's hurt. He missed Game 1. He's clearly ailing. He's due for a 50-point game, 40-point playoff game. He torched him at the end of the regular season for 50. He's due to have one of those 20 for 27 shooting nights, 45 points.
Maybe.
And if that's Game 6 or 7, then I don't think they're beating him when Embiid goes off like that.
Maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe he's just actually hurt enough.
That could be very true. But you don't think Harden might have another 35-point performance? I'm just saying I don't trust the Celtics. The way they've looked this series,
I know we've seen Harden score that, but I don't see another 35-point performance out of James Harden. I'll just say that right now. Let's move on. We've gone an hour already.
All right, let's go.
Heat Knicks. Heat are up 3-1. It looks like the Heat are about to go into the Eastern Conference Finals. I want to talk about the Knicks side of this before we get into the Heat. We'll give all the Heat their love and everything, and we'll admit we were wrong and all that. But on the Knicks side, pretend you're a Knicks fan right now. If before the season,
darkness.
We're Hornets fans. This is way worse. They're in the playoffs. They've been in the playoffs in the last freaking 8 years. I don't want to hear.
They've had more than 3 nationally televised games a year.
Exactly. If you're a Knicks fan and someone said before this season they told you you're going to make the second round of the NBA playoffs and be competitive in that round, but you're going to lose in the second round, do you take that?
I think you do, because before the season, everybody was ragging on the Jalen Brunson signing, saying he was overpaid, saying he's not going to make that much of a difference. I think you take that. I think you really do, because otherwise, I guarantee in the minds of a lot of Knicks fans, they thought it was going to be another play-in exit. So, before the season, if I'm a Knicks fan, I'm taking that with Jalen Brunson, because nobody could have predicted the way he's been played this whole year.
100% you take this every time, because you know why you take this? This sets you up for future free agents. The Knicks always say, we're lining ourselves up to get LeBron. We're lining ourselves up to get this free agent. We're lining ourselves up to get Zion, whoever it may be.
Yeah.
This actually gives you a chance to get these guys. Now that you've shown you can win, and also the 2021 season, whatever it was, that was fake. That was fluff. We all knew it. We could see it from a mile away. This was real. This was very real. And at the bottom line of this series, the Heat experience just won out.
Yeah, and I want to take it a different road with the Knicks free agency thing. I agree with what you said. I also think free agents are looking at New York in the Garden during playoff basketball, and they're like, wow, I want to play for them.
And they showed they can win. Win a series. That's big.
Yeah, they've got a lot of good pieces. So if I'm obviously not Donovan Mitchell, but a Donovan Mitchell-esque player, what if I'm Jaylen Brown and I'm like, I'm the piece that they need to take them over the top? That's an attractive place to play basketball. It's the Mecca. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. The Heat experience did win out, though, at the end of the day. And if you would have told me, God, you texted me about this, that the Heat have a legitimate shot to be in the finals.
To win it.
They will probably be in the Eastern Finals for sure. I would have looked at you and said, you watching reruns of the bubble? Are you crazy?
I mean, you've gone against the Heat every series. I warned you about this. I warned you about this one. I said, hey, be careful. They've burned you once. So fool me once, shame on you, whatever. I don't know. I'm turning into
Shame on me. No, shame on me now.
I'm turning into George Bush now, apparently.
I've gone against them, Carter. I don't know. I just haven't been able to believe in them. And I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know if it's Jimmy Butler.
I don't know how they're doing it.
Jimmy Butler has that demeanor. I think he has that playoff demeanor. I think it's infectious. He's got role guys believing they can score 20 a game like Caleb Martin. He's got them believing in themselves oh, we can punk this team. At the end of the day, that's what it is. We can punk this team. We can get in their head. You're better than what you actually are. I think it's infectious. I really do.
I think that's an excellent point because all these guys are playing up to his intensity. That's the key there. Kevin Love's playing there. Max Strus, Caleb Martin.
Cody Zeller. Cody Zeller is serviceable.
They are playing up to his intensity. And I kind of wanted to bring up with that, are we going to be forbidden from making fun of Heat culture if they make it to the finals?
I think we might have to because Jimmy Butler is the epitome of it, and he's got Cody Zeller, who was not signed for 70 games of the season, playing 15 minutes a game in an Eastern Conference semifinal series and actually looking good. These guys, Haywood Highsmith, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin. These guys wouldn't get minutes. Duncan Robinson especially now. They're not getting minutes on a normal team, but they've really bought in, and that's such an underrated trait for your best player to have, is the ability to get other guys in the locker room to buy in. And Jimmy Butler's always had that, and that's why he didn't work out with the Timberwolves. That's why Towns and him didn't work out.
That's why he didn't work out with Ben Simmons.
Yeah, it is 100%. He saw the writing on the wall. He saw it before anybody else did.
Like, the Heat culture is the silliest, most cliche, funny thing in sports, but it's effing working. Like, it's working. It makes me mad.
It's hard to argue. With their roster top to bottom, especially with no Tyler Hero.
7 undrafted players.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you got to give credit where credit's due, and something they've built there works. They've got guys buying in. A lot of it's Jimmy Butler, but a lot of it maybe is just the infrastructure in Miami.
Couple notes I had written down from Game 4 real quick. That Caleb Martin dunk was just, of course, like every Hornets fan has seen a Martin twin have just a poster dunk like that in a randomly huge moment.
We picked the wrong one.
We picked the wrong one.
We picked the wrong one, Carter.
Max Strus apparently that charge pissed me off. That's why I wrote that down. I was just getting mad at charges all night.
There you go.
The weirdest part about the Heat, why they keep winning, and why I'm still confused how they keep winning, is I'm not comfortable when anybody on that team shoots. There's not one player when they shoot the ball, I say, oh, that's going in. Not one. Even Jimmy Butler. When Jimmy Butler takes a 3-point shot, I'm like, no.
The most comfortable shot I have on that team watching is Bam Adebayo from the elbow. That's the most comfortable shot I have.
Or like a Kevin Love outlet pass.
Yeah. And the thing is, good for Eric Spoelstra for letting him do that. I'm sure him and Jimmy Butler started talking like, yeah, if I'm open, just chuck it. Who cares? It works.
Big time credit to Eric Spoelstra, man. I was in like middle school, high school, whatever, but sitting there like Eric Spoelstra's a stupid coach. Like if he had to coach a real team, he couldn't do it. He just has LeBron. He's riding LeBron's coattail. Dude's doing it, man. He's doing it.
Well, he proved us wrong the year that the Heat beat the Hornets in the playoffs, like 2016. That they should not have been anywhere near the playoffs that year. And then these last couple of years in the bubble, last year almost making the conference finals. Now this year, you got to give credit where credit's due. It wasn't just LeBron and the big three running the show. He actually had a major integral role in that.
On the Knicks side, I just don't think Knicks fans should be like. Obviously, you're pissed that you lose this series, and you're pissed because you're like, oh my gosh, we got a gift that we got to play the 8 seed, the Heat, the dead Heat, the zombie Heat, and we could have a chance at the Eastern Conference Finals, and you were favored going into that series. That's why you're upset. But the grand scheme of things, the experience.
Take a step back and look at it.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. Like, this was a great season for New York.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're New York, like we said before, you take it. The thing with New York right now, though, is the body language is awful. Julius Randle coming out after the game saying maybe they wanted it more. That's your second best player. That's supposed to be one of your go-to scorers. And he comes out and says that. If you just watch, he didn't run back on defense like 5 times in a row. He's just standing there outraged. He's a hothead. Brunson's ankle's been messed up. His shooting percentage dropped from 42% from 3 during the regular season to 28 in the postseason. Something's off there. They just don't have it this year. I don't know what else to say. Quickly's out.
The other thing on the Knicks, real quick, I'll make this prediction right now. Tom Thibodeau is fired by January.
I don't hate that, and I think Randall's gone too. I think Randall either demands out or they just clean house. Because Brunson is the real deal. They've got to get some better guys around him because I don't know if Randall's going to work.
I think Tom Thibodeau. When Tom Thibodeau teams fall apart, they fall apart hard, and it's going to happen early. They're going to stop playing defense, and they're not going to care, and they're going to play terrible, terrible basketball early on. We thought it might even happen last year or even this year.
Well, we saw the run they had in the conference finals, whatever that was, a couple years ago, and then they're not conference finals, but they won a playoff series. Yeah, and the next year they fell off. But I don't know. I think there's something more real with this team this year. But there's a couple guys I think there has to be some question marks around Randall going into the offseason, even RJ Barrett. I'll be interested to see what direction they go in because I think this season can be considered overall a success, but I still feels like the way they've lost to the team they lost to seems like there should have been more. And I think it's going to leave a bad taste in the mouth of a lot of people.
Yeah, but when you take it, like we said, when you take a step back, though, it's a successful season. It's not the Giannis where you didn't fail like the Bucks. I mean, let's be honest. Real quick, we don't think the Heat are going to blow this, right? Up 3-1. I think the Knicks are dead.
I think the Knicks are dead too, just especially the way they've been playing. The Heat have been stomping on their throats. The Knicks' body language, they're checked out. Maybe besides Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, everybody else has checked out.
And then last thing I have on all these playoff series, and then we'll touch. I want to touch on the Bucks firing Budenholzer, and then we'll talk about the draft lottery. But last thing I have on all these series, with the 8 seed Miami Heat being almost in the conference finals, with the 7 seed Lakers almost being in the conference finals, with the 4 seed Suns potentially being there. How much does the regular season matter? Because it feels like it's just completely irrelevant now. Like, why even care about it?
It's becoming more and more irrelevant because a lot of these teams, home court doesn't really matter to them. You saw the Heat and the Lakers in the first round take home court almost instantly. I don't know how you combat that, though, Carter. I don't know how you combat that.
Less games.
I've heard people float around. Well, I've heard that. I've heard people float around the idea that the number 1 or number 2 seed gets 5 home games instead of 4 and 3. It should be 5 and 2. I don't know if I love that.
No.
I've also heard the idea floated around that you should pick your opponent. Also, don't love that.
I don't hate that.
So though. I don't know what the solution.
The NBA
it would cause drama.
Yeah, the
It'd
NBA
be great
already.
content.
Yeah, the NBA is already a Mexican soap opera. So like, why not take it a step further?
That would do numbers, man. If you got the Nuggets and they're choosing, who do we want to play? They probably wouldn't choose the Lakers or the Grizzlies.
Everybody's just foaming
you're
foaming at the mouth to play against the Nets this year.
Yeah, I mean they're the number 1 pick. Yeah.
No, I think it's less games, but even though like people would still load manage with all that stuff, it's all bull crap. It's all bull crap, anyways. That's a different time to talk about regular season stuff.
You know what? It is, but I'll make one last comment. We've talked about it with the old Atlanta Hawks teams. There's just better teams in the league, 1 through 8 in the playoffs. There were teams making the playoffs that were hot garbage. They would have been 12th, 13th in the conference this year, and they were making the playoffs consistently in the 2010s. Well, that's what it is now. Is like those bad teams, they almost never won in the first round. You never saw any upsets in these 7-2 series, 8-1 series. Now the teams are just better. Well, when we come into this year, there were 10 teams I legitimately thought could be top 6 seed in the West. There was just more parity. I don't know what else to say.
Imagine those Greg Monroe, Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond Pistons teams doing anything.
Yeah, or the Hawks teams, or the Magic teams with Vucevic and Fournier as their 2 best players. Come on, those teams aren't 12th or 13th in the conference this year.
Philly did win, so we're fine there. We're safe. They won by 12, 115, 103, so we're good. We're safe.
Yeah, Boston's done. I think Boston's done.
Suns Nuggets is about to start, so we'll close up here in a second. I want to touch on 2 last things. Bucks fire Mike Budenholzer. Very similar to the Dwayne Casey stuff where he's really successful. He even won a championship, kind of like the Frank Vogel. Yeah. But I think it's a lot more similar to the Frank Vogel thing where the star player made a call.
I think so too, and that's why whenever Giannis posted that farewell, like, look at all we accomplished, it felt a little weird, a little slimy. I don't know how Budenholzer felt. Like, you think Budenholzer knows that there was a call made? He's got to know something.
Oh, he knows. He knows.
I think deep down he knows. But at the end of the day, I don't think it was the wrong decision. He had almost a 70% win percentage over his 5 years there, but something wasn't clicking. You saw it the first round, even when Giannis came back, it was just dysfunctional. It just seems like this group's kind of washed up. Like, Holiday was great, but like Middleton, he might be time to go. Lopez, yeah, he was great defensively, but this group clicking together, the way they play, it doesn't excite me, Carter. I don't see much potential there.
Yeah, it was interesting because you heard Windhorst talk about New York, the Knicks are laying the seeds for potential Giannis stuff. That's a little scary. If you're the Bucks, you got to do whatever this guy says. And
Exactly.
Like you said, you agree with the firing. I kind of agree with it too. Like, people are like, "Oh, you got to feel bad for Budenholzer. Like, he won a championship. How can you get rid of him already?" It's like, dude, sometimes the voice gets stale.
Like, I think they hit their ceiling.
Yeah, just sometimes it gets stale. Sometimes it happens quicker than others. That's just how it is. Like, maybe eventually, but you don't have time in sports. You don't have time. You got to win now.
And I'm sure it was building up before this, but like I said before, that first round series against the Heat, I think they still should have won even with Giannis missing games. I think they were the better team, and they got punked, and they got outcoached.
Terrible coaching decisions, not calling timeouts when he should have, playing terrible defensive lineups, matching up guys in the wrong spots and all that. This comes back. You mentioned the Giannis social post. I thought that was completely slimy. That was gross. You're just like, thank you, Coach. If you didn't see it, he just basically said, thank you, Coach Budenholzer, for the last 5 years. You are amazing, my favorite coach, whatever, blah, blah, blah. One of those written goodbye posts by a social media manager on Giannis's team, whatever it is. But it still felt slimy because he made the call, and we all know it.
even if he didn't direct the call, he could have stopped it. He could have said, man, I really like Budenholzer. Give us one more year together. We can really get it going. And guess what? They'll listen to him. He could have saved his job. Even if he didn't advocate for him to be fired, he could have saved it, and Budenholzer knows that. So that's why I'm really curious to see, like, what was his actual reaction to that?
And I'll say this. I just want this in the ether before we, just in case things do flip. I'm slowly becoming an anti-Giannis guy. Slowly but surely. But I'm slowly becoming an anti-Giannis guy. If he keeps this kind of activity up, I'm not going to be okay with it.
You didn't like that post he made today about? Yeah, there you go. You a whippersnapper. You didn't like that post he made today about not making all defensive team? He's like, tired of the disrespect.
The disrespect is real. I'm tired of it. Whatever it was. Like, dude, shut up. You lost in the first round. No one cares. You can't say anything right now. Like, lay low, get in the gym, put out your workout videos in July and August, and don't sit there.
Say you're gonna Say you're going to shoot 35% from three next year. You've worked on your shot. The thing is, I've got a bad taste in my mouth from that post-game presser when they lost.
That's what I'm saying. It's laying into the seeds of becoming an anti-Giannis guy. So I'm just putting it out there. Maybe we see more this offseason. That's all I have on that. Last thing I want to touch on was the NBA Draft Lottery. NBA Draft Lottery is next Tuesday, May 16th. I believe it's at 7:30 Eastern. Who knows when it actually starts? I think it probably starts at 8, 7:30, at midnight. Who knows these days? But anyhow,
pray.
This is the reason I brought this up. We're not going to just sit here and guess lottery numbers. You can play the simulator yourself. You can play with yourself all you want. Clip that.
There you go.
If anybody has like a rain dance, a ritual, or whatever it is, I'll do anything to get the Hornets the first overall pick. I mean, I'll do anything.
We deserve it. We deserve it. Whatever you got, whatever juju you have.
Our DMs are open. I mean, whatever you have, give it to us. We'll take it.
Any suggestions? I mean, I'll go outside. I'll put some stones in a circle and lighten something on fire in the middle. If I need to sacrifice something, so be it. I mean, I've sacrificed my happiness watching the Hornets the last few years. I need to get repaid somehow. Come on.
I will do a rain dance. I'll be sitting in the Dallas airport waiting on my flight to North Carolina. So I'll do this. I will videotape myself doing a live reaction of it, and hopefully I kind of hope my flight's delayed. That's kind of my dream scenario.
Yeah.
The only time in my life I want my flight delayed is just so I can watch the NBA freaking draft lottery. Like, how sad is our lives as NBA fans?
I was going to say, that's how you know it's sad, because right in the middle of the playoffs, conference finals are going to be starting this time next week, and we're just stoked for the draft lottery. Just like, oh, please give us lottery balls. Please give us the number one pick. Meanwhile, other teams' fan bases are like, this is the year for a title. But no.
And the other thing I want to touch on the draft lottery, two things. One, when we talk about the NBA draft, we'll have Adam Stanko in as always. One thing I want to note down that we need to remember for future reference, just get a guy who can get a bucket. Get the guy who's pro ready. Like, obviously, when Wembanyama is different, he's one. Like, we get it. But the guys after that, we had the Paolo, Chet, Jabari debate last year. Everyone was, well, Paolo's the most pro ready, but the potential of Chet Holmgren. Stop blinding. We need to.
That's overthinking. You're overthinking it.
Exactly. We need to stop blinding ourselves to potential and be like, oh, this guy's pro ready. He can shoot. He can create his own shot. Let's go get this guy.
Yep.
We can work on defense. We can work on these kind of things. So I just wanted that to note down. And the other thing I wanted to say was, please, Hornets, just I want Wembanyama so bad.
We're due. And last thing I'll say on the draft lottery, to all the people out there, all the sports media people or people on Twitter, social media saying, oh, and Charlotte doesn't deserve him. His career would die in Charlotte. That's the last place I want him to be. Shut up. Honestly, you don't think LaMelo and Victor would be cool? If he goes to the Pistons or the Spurs or the Rockets, it's not going to be any worse than going to Charlotte. It's just not.
It could be. In their defense, it could be. LaMelo and Wemby would be must-watch TV, though. It would be unbelievable.
Do you know how many national TV games the team that gets Wembanyama is going to get next year?
Gosh, and it better be the Charlotte Hornets. I am praying, if anybody, I will do anything for Victor Wembanyama. And this is probably going on TikTok. This clip right here, and we're gonna hope to get some comments. Someone being like, huh, and they're gonna probably make some bad comments. Actually, now that I think about it.
That's okay. People can hate on the Charlotte Hornets all they want to. But you know what? We're due. We got screwed out of Anthony Davis. We're due.
Yeah, we are due. We're so due. And
I'm feeling it.
Anyhow,
I'm feeling it, Carter.
Anything else we need to talk about? We went an hour 20 today.
Yeah, no, that was good. I enjoyed it. That's about it. Playoffs heating up. I'm excited to see this Nuggets Suns Game 5.
I know, this is going to be awesome. But anyhow, thank you so much for listening. If you made it to the end, thank you. Thank you a lot.
Shout out to you.
Yeah. It's 10 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to hop off. We're going to watch some Nuggets Suns. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to subscribe, rate, review. Make sure to do whatever you can to help out. Follow us on Twitter at Connor_Sparrow, at CarterB8. We're on TikTok. We're everywhere at CarterCast. At CarterCast on I think we're even on Truth Social now.
Hey, there you go.
I'm not saying I signed us up for it, but we may be
somebody did.
We may be the #1 sports media account on Truth Social soon. So, but it wasn't me that signed us up. So I swear. But anyhow, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye bye.